How do you think about like the growth of the firm? Because I think one of the hard parts about service businesses is resource planning and talent and hours and management. I mean, I started my career working at an agency and I can't imagine, like, it's so hard. You're either over-resourced, under-resourced. And I feel like there's a sweet spot of a firm too, where you're big enough, but not too big. How do you think about kind of that puzzle?
You're cool if I nerd out on services right now?
Yeah, please.
That's awesome because it's the first podcast that lets me. Okay. So I think about it in, I'll tell you this. When I started, I had in my mind, I want 1,000-person company. I want to build an IBM or a McKinsey, and I'm just going to grow and grow. And I was really thinking number of employees. Like that was really huge. We were not immune to the growth at all costs. Like we were running this business, sometimes not making money. And that's like the calling yourself what it is and looking at yourself in the mirror. Like services is a margin-based business. We got to make money every month. And like we should be looking at our EBITDA, and those numbers are really important. So I had a moment where I really looked at what I want, and what I want is a healthy business that can pay its people well. And that, like, more than anything else, I always say this, that treats its employees like adults. Like that's something that really wakes me up every morning. Like I love doing innovative work for our clients, and it's amazing the SaaS companies like we get to work with, but also I want the people that work at my company to, be thinking about, hey, I'm really well respected here. And as I look at, how do I grow this company? You're talking about bench. Bench is the thing that puts services companies out of business. If I overhire 5 people and then, my contract ends and now I've got 5 people on the bench and they're each making $100K, like I can't afford that, right? It ends up being, what did I say? That I say $5,000 to $50,000, of just money gone. And it's very hard to restaff people internally. There's not as much it's very difficult to do that. But you also can't sell and expand business if you don't have a bench. You will find not only is it hard as a salesperson, you will also find that your consultants will not pitch new projects to your clients because they're scared about staffing it, right? They're thinking like, I'm going to have to do it, or like, we're going to, mess this up. And so you need to find this like happy medium, and depending on your size, it sort of scales, but you need a percentage of bench. Our investment in Latin America has really helped that because we don't have like the huge inflated salaries that we have in the US.
Gotcha. Really interesting. When you're talking about the bench, I'm thinking back, I used to live with, a Deloitte consultant who sat on the bench for a while and all that stuff. And it's the best when you're on the bench, as long as you get to keep your job. Yeah.
Totally. Imagine just sitting there for 3 months being like, I don't have a project yet. And they're fine with it. Yeah. It's crazy.
Oh yeah. Consultant life is funny. He lived in San Francisco, but worked in New York, and every Sunday night would fly and he'd, put on his pajamas. Shout out Max. Yeah. Very funny memory. Yeah. Insane. Yeah. And so, okay. So you mentioned the Latin American talent there. That's interesting. So yeah, how do you think about the talent side of things? Like, is it all internal FTE employees? Do you use contractors? And how do you sort of make sure it's like high quality talent too? Because you're ultimately selling people's brains to somebody. Yeah.
I have an incredible recruiting team, truly out of this world. They're just incredible sourcers. And there is just something very magical that people have about having an interview and really seeing that somebody is like up for the task and capable. And Kyle Lacey is our head of people ops, and he is a huge reason as to why we bring really incredible talent. Obviously, we send take-home tests and lots of interviews, and, they know how to do it, but he also just has a pulse on it. So we have really incredible recruiting talent. So that's been amazing. And then when we think about, you asked me about full-time. Most people are like 90% of my team is full-time, and we have a little bit of contractor, but it tends to be specialists. So say a NetSuite specialist. I don't need that person full-time, but we've got enough contractors that we bring them in. So we have a pretty good network of specialists. And then there's some, oh my gosh, I think it was Jason Lemkin. And if it wasn't him, then I'm going to give him the credit. I was at Pavilion's CEO Summit, and I think it was him or somebody spoke about senior talent in the US. And this is going to sound a little like crotchety CEO sitting in their throne, but stay with me. There is something that happened to us culturally that didn't happen to other countries, where we did have this moment of just like a ton of money, really insane salaries, and quite frankly, not super high expectations. Like we were coasting, and nobody could tell because money was flowing and it didn't matter, and stocks were up and life was good. And as that's changed and it's like kind of brought back to, okay, everybody's got harder jobs. It's like do more with less. I don't think people should spend nights and weekends doing like, go have fun, go have other side hustles. I have them. But I think that there is something that we do need to right size. Like, work is work, and like accountability is real, and margin is real, and productivity is real. And so I do think that like there is a little bit of disillusionment going on. And I think it's pretty senior. It's at like the director level that, they don't want to do the work. They want to direct, but teams are smaller. What do you do? And I am finding that the amount of, for lack of a better word, vibes that are coming from our LATAM hires are amazing, because they didn't go through that. Like, this just feels normal, and nobody has to be like, oh shoot, work is harder.
100% agree. Amen. We've hired internationally at Doc, and I'd say our international employees work so hard, are so committed, so fortunate to be, working with us, and they have been awesome. And I think what you're talking about is too, is just like, there's you grow up in your career wanting to be a manager and like leading a team and all that stuff. And like, I got to do that at Lattice, which is cool. Totally. But like, the fun part is actually the work. Like, the fun part is rolling up your sleeves and doing things. And honestly, people management is like the least fun things, talking about salaries and whatever. Like, that's like the least fun thing. So it's hopefully that's a big shift that kind of happens in the future as people start to realize that.
Mm-hmm.